Hey everybody, this is John, and I'm here with Terry from Sustainable Kashi down here in East Florida. Sebastian, Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He is running an intentional community that is very much based in permaculture.
So I could start by telling you about Sustainable Kashi.
Okay.
So I'll actually start with Kashi, which is a 80-acre ashram that started back in 1976 with the guru Ma Jaya. She brought her teachings down here. And it was an interfaith teaching to where all religions could come together and share space in kindness and love. Well, about 4 years ago, we started Sustainable Kashi, and it was started by Peter and Susei, who lived here in the ashram. They wanted to reconnect to the earth and teach the community how to live sustainably. So they started the composting program. They planted about 250 trees and started the infrastructure that became what Sustainable Kashi is now. Center the heart of the community. And as you can see, there's temples surrounding this lake called the Ganga, and each of major religions are represented here. We have a Jesus Christ garden, we have a Baba temple over here, there's a Buddhist temple over there, a Hanuman temple over here, the Star of Judah over here. So it's everything's represented kind of as an example of we can all come together and live, coexist. Exactly. You are.
What's your favorite thing to do?
This is a 35-year-old bunya nut tree. The bunya nut every 3 years produces these beautiful pine cones that produce a pine nut that's absolutely delicious. Wonderful food source here. This is a female that actually does produce pine cones.
Look, guys, look. Right here.
I'll start you in the composting area. Bamboo are about 20 years old, and we use them as mulch for our garden beds. They're constantly dropping their leaves, make a wonderful ground cover. Once a month we do a market here. It does an open air market. Last weekend we got 370 people.
And so people that live here, is it a very intentional thing of we want to live in this community, or is it just good housing prices, or what attracts people to be in this community?
Yeah, it's definitely intentional. People that live here are interested in living together and then sharing the teachings and the interfaith beliefs here, as well as connecting to the earth.
And there's 40 years.
41, yeah.
41 years. And so you told us a little bit of the backstory that it started as a religious
interfaith.
So
it's all religions.
community.
Right.
And was it intentional that this is what it would become?
There's a master plan that it's slowly been coming closer and closer to. So yeah, it's been intentional the whole time, but it started off on 8 acres, and now it's 80 acres.
We found that intentional communities can be very difficult because there's a lot of friction, different personalities come into it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times they end up breaking up. Is there a secret?
Well, I think the best analogy is that intentional communities are a lot like a dryer. And the people are like sharp stones, and you throw all the sharp stones in there and it chips away all the parts that don't really work.
So do you have bylaws that you change? Are there original bylaws you all live by? Is there a governing body? Is it just a democracy of everyone has a say?
The entire area now is run on, it's a board, and the board, we have a CEO that represents the board, and so the business side of everything runs that way. But the community side is pretty much just a bunch of agreements, and
that's incredible.
It's nice.
Okay, sorry. Back to permaculture.
Let me show you some the compost. So that was this is the first thing we did, was we set up a compost system. Everybody used to just throw their garbage into the landfills and just sent all of our fertility off of the land. So now we actually create quite a bit of wonderful fertile compost here, and what we have are these ring systems to where all the compost from the meals will go into the rings, break down for roughly 3 months, and then we'll put them into here and sift them out and create just some high-grade quality compost. And then from here we use these in our nurseries, and then that goes back into the gardens, which grows the food, which goes back into the kitchen, which goes back out here, and the whole cycle starts again. So we're doing pretty large amounts of sprouts and microgreens, and all of those trays end up in here as well. And here you can see our freshest pile with the browns on the top and the greens in the middle, breaking down. This is the second oldest pile that started to go break down more. And as that one becomes ready, we'll take the cage off, and it will end up like this pile, which gets closer and closer to what we're going for, which is a kind of a dark, loamy compost. And from there, put that into a sifter. Which creates our compost that we're using in the gardens. So everything that is too big to sift, we'll just take this out and put it back into another pile to help inoculate the cycle all over again.
I want to show this. So here you have very sandy soil here in this part of Florida. It's like just sand.
Yeah.
And yet on top of this, everywhere that some of that has just kind of oozed out over time, and so everything back here is
just dark,
beautiful,
amazing soil.
And yet you don't have a lot of weeds in it.
No, we don't have any weed problems. This is actually an aquatic weed from the pond. We'll pull this out and actually use it as a brown covering for the compost piles. So it just puts all that back into the cycle. There's the bamboo I was talking about earlier. The majority of our fungal-based compost, and then here we have the worms, which will do the majority of our bacterial-based.
Oh, fun! Wow. So do you have this on so they don't get like washed out if it rains too hard?
Yeah, so they don't get too much water.
That's awesome.
Nothing like worm shot.
And so this is your worm tea?
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah, and I'll usually run this through about 3 times.
Uh-huh.
Making it nice and condensed. And then from there I'll use it as a garden additive.
And there's no smell.
No,
there's no
smells
smell
great
at all.
back here. Which, for the amount that we're producing, roughly 3 yards per month. So,
wow,
quite a bit of compost that's coming out of here.
The ground is quite squishy back here.
Very healthy.
Very nice.
Very fertile. Well, the river is right here. We're right on the St. Sebastian River Preserve. So on the other side of us is 30,000 acres of beautiful preserve land. So you can imagine just the
So it's a
nature.
good spot.
The nature here is just, it's like living on a preserve.
The light back here is amazing.
Yeah, good for
So pretty.
good for taking pictures for sure. Yeah, we can actually grow coconuts and jackfruit here.
Really?
So we can grow a lot of the tropical fruits, which are just really nice. Like what I've done is even off these trails has gone in, like this is all Apios americanos, which is a groundnut.
Oh yeah?
So here there's groundnuts, that's what interplanted. And then like the cultivar guavas, that's a ruby supreme guava. And then like cardamom. Planted over
Really?
here. So yeah, just putting in choice cultivars within the system. So here's the our main market garden. This garden has produced about 540 pounds of food since September. Yeah, and it's roughly 1,500 square foot of garden space, growing space. And we have everything from carrots, salad greens, onions, spinaches, beans, eggplants, kales, tomatoes, fennels, even the beautiful tatsoys, which are in the mustard green family, beautiful green. And what we do here is we put these little bunny signs up in which that indicates to the community that they can come out and harvest from that garden bed. And it's a way of them being able to access everything and them being able to access the abundance without ruining a crop.
And you use human manure?
We do have a human manure system that's on a 3-year cycle. Mostly it's the compost, and we put about 2 inches of the compost on each of these permanent beds every year in this garden. And as you can see, it's producing some pretty good vegetables.
Wow. That is beautiful. And what month is it?
This is
It's February?
February.
And initially did you put down mulch and did you let it sit for a while before you planted?
Yeah, originally we put large piles of mulch, maybe a quarter ton of mulch just on this location. And then made raised paths where we actually put the compost into little holes within the mulch and then slowly work the soil up that way. Because this is all typical white beach sand here. So to get to a point where we're here, where it's actually a decent dark soil. Yeah.
And how many years have you been gardening in this spot?
This is the second year.
The second year.
In this space. Yeah.
And you just really don't have very many weeds at all.
No, it's mostly mulch.
Exactly.
So that's what we do a lot here is we grow this Tithonia. And you can see the ladybugs and everything. We have just a very healthy, beneficial insect population. And the Tithonia mines phosphorus up. So we actually, you can see this one hasn't been cut yet. But what we'll do is we'll actually strip these leaves and use these as mulch, which is a very valuable mineral in Florida. So we'll strip that whole thing, and you can actually see here what the last layer of mulch was. And it just makes an excellent cover and kind of keeps back our soil. We have 3. We have the Kapoor, we have the
Can
Krishna.
I smell it? Because I left mine at home.
2 different ones.
I brought bouquets of them with me because it's one of those smells you shouldn't live without.
Well, we have a solar dehydrator, and what we do is we'll actually harvest them, dry them in the solar dehydrator, make teas and salves out of them. This is all moringa, and you can see how we're harvesting this, where we just coppice it, put the whole thing in the solar dehydrator, and then we just go in circles and follow each of these 5 trees, and we coppice a tree every other month.
I've never seen one this big.
They'll get 20, 30 feet
Really?
here. So we actually just keep cutting them to keep them smaller. A lot of moringa.
So how many people in your community come out and really get involved in this? Because this is really a fun project, but how many actually want to get hands-on?
It depends on the week. But every Wednesday we have a day where everybody can come join us, and we'll get as many as 20 people. And then you can get a lot of work done, and if you got 20 people doing it. So yes, we usually, I will scale the project based on the amount of help I get. Tomorrow's project is going to be pretty fun and pretty easy, so we can do it no matter how many people we get. But this mandala was all built on hugelkultur, so it's a bunch of buried wood. So the soil in here is just amazing.
So how big? What was your diameter? Was it
We
logs?
were using everything from 6 to 12 inches.
Okay.
Buried down and then covered up with lake muck, and there's probably about 3 feet of soil additive right here. This is the beginning of our perennial bed, and here you can see our New Zealand spinach. It's just absolutely a sea of spinach.
That's a lot of salads.
That's a lot of salads for sure. It goes into the mustard greens and the collard greens and the kale. And none of this is irrigated, so this is a perennial. We have our rows of papayas, a whole bed of cassava, tapioca, and then in the back we do the guanus and everything like that on the gates. We can grow 365 days a year, but what we can grow depends on the season. So what I do in the summer here, pretty much all of this, but the papaya will stay up. Everything else will pretty much bolt. So what I do is I put a whole bunch of Seminole pumpkin in this entire field and use it as a living mulch to where it just turns into a sea of pumpkin. Last year I grew close to 700 pounds of pumpkin, and I travel in the summer. I was in New Zealand and actually grew 700 pounds of pumpkins while I was gone. So it was a good feeling to be sitting in a beach in New Zealand knowing that you grew 700 pounds of Seminole pumpkins. And we do a lot of pollination planting. So this is the milkweed for the monarch. This is actually a giant milkweed here. There's also another monarch attractor. Also a wonderful ladybug attractor.
Do you guys have problems with like fire ants and everything eating?
Oh, there's one. There's our little.
Eating your. There they are. Oh.
He flew away. Fire ants, yes. That's probably our biggest pest here.
Do you do anything to deter them, or just keep replanting?
Yeah, they don't move into the garden beds too much. They don't like enriched soil, so they stay in the sand. So we pretty much just keep enriching the soil and they move out. So it's pretty a passive assault on them. We don't actively.
So you change the environment to benefit you and to be unhappy for them.
Exactly. Here's a curry leaf, which is fantastic, which is a gherkin. It's like a small spiky gherkin, but still very amazing. Crunchy cucumber.
Everything here seems to have a lot of water in it. Even the basil, the leaves were just chock full of water, and yet you're not irrigating.
Oh, no, this is unirrigated. And a lot has to do with the variety that we're growing. We stay with African or tropical or South American varieties.
So with your PDC and your other classes that you teach, is that open or is it just the community?
Oh, that's open to the public, yeah.
And what are your fees for it?
I charge $850 for the 5-weekend course.
Okay.
And that includes all the gourmet food. That's camping in the eco village. Here you can see our mangoes fruiting with these beautiful little tiny mangoes. Now here you can see the succession of how we planted this food forest. We originally came in and we had these leguminous nitrogen fixers. Now these are overstory trees. And what we would do is we planted them, which made this beautiful shade canopy as we put these young trees in, and these would shelter them from the harsh sun. And then as these trees started to get more and more established, we'd start cutting these and laying them down as fertilizer. So now we're actually dropping the nitrogen down, creating mulch, and actually supporting the fruit trees with these trees compost. And it's going quite well. We're having a
So we use black locust and Siberian pea shrub in our area. What's this one?
That's a Lucania.
Lucania. Is that the common name?
Yeah.
Lucania. So all of you Floridians.
Well, there's lots of different, basically the legumes. You could use ear pod trees. You could use Guanacaste, which work quite well. There's lots of nitrogen fixing trees you can use. Ice cream bean works very well. Nice crop of tomato right here. Just tall field of tomatoes getting ready to come on. So these are some wonderful Everglades tomatoes. If you want to try one of
I love
these,
one.
they're fantastic.
Thank you.
Of course, they drop lots and lots of seeds, so they just keep on coming back.
So they're perennial.
Pretty much perennial-ish.
Self-seeding annual.
Self-seeding annual, exactly. So here we have the majority of the food in here is all planted by us. We have olive trees, cherry trees, almond trees, avocado, tangelos, lemongrass, limes. You can see the papayas back over there. Everything's been placed here intentionally with these. Each one was a compost pile.
What a good idea.
Yeah, so we just composted an area and then planted into that space, and creating these nice little fertile patches of ground.
So do you take a lot of cuttings and anything like that, or do you purchase a lot of your trees?
Yeah, we mostly start all cuttings and seed propagations. So here you can see the youngest pile we just made. Just finished this up. Lots of nice dark earth, little biochar, all sorts of fertility in there. And we're starting this off with a tomato bed, and then eventually we'll end up putting long-term trees in. Here's a new dwarf red banana patch with dragon fruits. This is our propagation station.
And again, the beautiful soil underneath. I swear everything you put in pots just kind of spreads out
Yeah.
all around it and just becomes this wonderful dirt itself, because you're always losing expensive dirt. But is it also maybe the leaves?
A lot of drops, and then this is all well watered. So your microorganisms are really well fed.
This is beautiful.
So everything is really, it's just a little life factory right here. And this is where we do all of our seed propagations. We start everything in seed flats, bump it up into larger pots, and then into the ground. And by the time they go straight into the ground, they're all very healthy.
And this is your soil from your compost?
This is the same exact soil from the compost, which comes in by the bucket over here, which is just absolutely perfect. They say that you have really good dirt when half of it crawls away.
Right. So do you just add a little bit of perlite in the more advanced stages?
Exactly, when the real babies.
So it can breathe?
Exactly. Yeah, a little bit of perlite and vermiculite, just to add space and water retention. And yeah, we're having very, very good plant growth results.
And a lot of people have told me that here, and when we were in Mississippi last, that you cannot over fertilize because it's sandy soil. Do you have to reapply compost and other fertilizer frequently in order to keep things going, or do the dead leaves and everything that drops off seasonally fertilize it itself?
Right, I don't do any fertilizing except for a compost tea. I'll do a liquid fertilizer of a aerated molasses compost mixture, and just do a foliar feed on that once every 2 weeks.
And is that everything or just the new starts?
No, that's everything in the garden. I don't fertilize any of the starts.
Wow.
That's strictly on compost.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've done nitrogen tests on the compost, and it's higher than, except that it's the N2, so it's a high rating on nitrogen.
Wow.
So really there's no need to add anything else, and we have lots of those little bugs crawling around and adding lots of the essential minerals that we need. We have a very nice shiitake mushroom farm over here. This is 3 years of mushroom farming. This is 3 years, this is 2 years, this is 1 year. You can see little baby shiitake coming up here.
And so do you mind if we talk for a minute about appropriate dreams for your permaculture, in that plant what is appropriate, grow and yearn for what will actually grow in your area? I mean, it's one thing to have exotics that you think would be really fun to grow, but at the same time, do your research.
Yeah, plant, definitely it's the right plant in the right place at the right time. And intentions are wonderful, and a lot of plants are great and fun to grow, but definitely grow something that's going to feed everybody and feed the system itself. So when we first started the system, we actually planted very little food. There was a lot of support crops. So we were actually planting the crops to feed the crops. And now, 4 years in, we are at a point where we're starting to see large harvests with very little feeding. Those varieties of plants that were more wish list plants are kind of dying out. Either it got too cold, or it got too dry, or it got too hot. And we're finding the varieties that were really successful, those are the ones we're propagating, and we're putting them in the key locations that are really working as our staple crops here.
Which is why permaculture is so important, is because the system feeds itself. You're not running around with a watering can and a pitchfork and a bucket of manure every 2 minutes.
Yeah, I used to call myself lazy, but now I just call myself efficient.
Right? Smart. let the happy environment be happy by planting the things that will make it happy.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Young baby group of shiitakes coming up. And I don't fruit these, I just let them go on a natural cycle. So I come out and I have a mushroom every 2 days or so. So it's just kind of on a natural cycle versus flushing them all out where I could get a couple pounds if I was going to sell them at market.
Right.
I would do it like that, but I just do it more for sustainability.
Insisting on it being profitable instantly, or it's not worth it.
Well, there's 2 ways to get rich: make more or use less. And we've found our value is not money, it's more in a healthy, thriving community with organic local food. So the more local food we're having at dinner with each other, the happier and richer we are. This is wonderful. It's a subterranean mushroom garden bed. So we actually buried a box of sawdust under the ground here that filled with oyster mushrooms, and those oyster mushrooms are growing on this subterranean layer here, or little surface layer, so they'll actually branch out, and we're finding oyster mushrooms just popping up all over the place. And we're coming down into the eco village, which hosts our woofing program. So we have an international woofing program where we host 4 to 7 people at a time, where they stay here in tents and volunteer in order to exchange, learn how to grow food and learn the area. It's been a very productive program. Hello! So here we're coming down into the eco village. We'll start with our solar dehydrator here, which is a downdraft solar dehydrator. The sun hits here and it's a black on the inside, with causing the heat to rise. There's a compartment here where it has nowhere to go, so it just rises and then pushes down through the trays here. We'll put our fresh moringa here on the tray, and as that hot air goes down, it then escapes out here through the chimney and out through the top. So it creates this constant flow of hot air through the system.
Is that diatomaceous earth on the bottom?
Yes, keep the bugs.
And it works?
It works very well. Mm-hmm.
I would not have thought of that.
Mm-hmm. And this, after about 1 day, that turns into a wonderful dried powder. And this is all passive system that's just working really well.
I've never seen one that was like in use before. I've seen them like on YouTube, but...
There's one. So here's the restroom, which is a wonderful system. All composting toilet. We've split the 2 into number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is filled with biochar, so the urine goes into there, and then there's a pipe, and it's a hole in the bottom of the bucket and a pipe right here that actually goes out here to this subterranean spinach bed. So all of that actually feeds this spinach bed and gets rid of...
and there's no smell.
And there's no smell.
There's no smell.
Exactly. Number 2 is a bucket privy. So as we were talking about the Florida water table here, we can't just dig a hole and use that as a pit privy, because our water table would just move that around and wouldn't be too sanitary. So what we do is we actually have a bucket system that we take into a larger bucket system where we're using EM1 and worms to break that down. And then after 2 years, we put that through a compost pile and then actually put it back into...
get heated up real nice.
So all the bacteria and any pathogens are broken down to a point of us being able to use it in our compost back into the gardens.
And do you have any kind of regulation where people come in and inspect things, or is it self-regulatory, or nobody knows so nobody says anything?
Yeah, we don't have any regulations on this particular system. There are larger systems such as like Sandcore or Envirolet that you can actually have larger systems. The departments for inspecting them aren't too good because they're not too common in Florida yet.
Right.
So I actually had a system where they asked me how to inspect it so they could inspect it for me. And it was, so
So do you test it? Do you test the compost or pathogens
yes,
somehow?
absolutely. And afterwards, before we put it into the composting system, which is the final 3-month system, we test it before it's even into that system.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah. Just gonna walk through.
Okay, can I finish up and,
Oh yeah.
and move out?
Oh yeah, no worries, no worries.
Okay.
Can I show the bananas?
Huh? Yeah.
And crickets? What are they? June
Oh,
bugs?
those are the lubber grasshoppers. Isn't that amazing?
Do they like the bananas? Is that why they're next to the bananas?
No, they're not after the bananas. No, they're just after the wall.
Finishing up stuff.
Just
They just want the structure. They're getting up off the ground there. Just coming. They were just born.
really?
Yeah. Those are babies. No, they're not after the bananas.
That's interesting that they like are in. They like have clustered in the shape of the stalk.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Yeah, a few outliers.
How interesting.
Yeah. These 2 panels, which are less than 100 watts.
And so it's just pretty much for your technology. It's not like, I mean, it's not like you have a lot of needs as far as electricity out here.
Other than lights and charging devices, that's pretty much it. Yeah, everything else is appropriate technology and passive systems. Yeah. So I can take you over here. This is our rainwater catchment system. So here the water all comes in over here, caught down into here into this 120 gallon tank. From there we use this to wash dishes. And all that gets funneled back into it in a created wetland system which grows vegetable taro.
And there's no smell.
No. Yeah, this does all our vegetable taro. And like I said, there's 7 people living here. So it's in use. Dining room.
I like the art that I see everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of creativity and art. So I can walk to the kitchen here. This is our solar-powered lights. Not going to get too bright in here for you. Chalkboard to write notes to each other. All foodstuffs. This is the brain control center of the charging system, and that's where everybody can charge devices. Water. We're actually installing a biogas digester on the 10th. It's actually coming next week. We're pretty excited about it. So these bottles are about to be replaced by a biodigester that will be right over here. So that system will be completely off-grid as well. So no more fracking for us.
That's incredible.
Yeah. We'll actually use the same cooking system just on biogas instead of the bottles.
I have to tell you, one of our most common things that we have found everywhere that we've gone with this kind of situation, everyone has these love notes they write to themselves about what intentional living means and relationship to the earth. And it doesn't matter if they're conservative or liberal.
Yeah.
Everybody who's living intentionally has these sayings everywhere, on their home, on their gardens, every structure they touch, they have this.
Isn't that nice?
This.
Yeah. It's the commonality of the importance of community and the importance of self-love, which is the only way you can get into a relationship like this.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. That's wonderful.
Every video we have, what do they call them? An Easter egg? Is that what it's called? That's kind of the Easter egg in each one of our videos is, oh, we found the quotes.
There it is.
And they're always there. Always. And they're always handwritten.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Well, you found the Easter egg.
I did. I found the Easter egg.
We always do everything in redundancy, so we have our backup system, which is a rocket stove here. So the rocket stove pulls fire and smoke in through here. This is our cooking surface, and then the exhaust is here, which actually gives us a smokeless fire. It's quite wonderful. And this is our biochar kiln here. So in this bottom barrel, there's another barrel that's filled with our biochar. what we're turning into biochar. The rest is packed around there. We'll light that, which is also a smokeless system, but then we use this for baking, so we can bake bread, brownies, or.
And it works?
Oh, it works quite wonderfully. Yeah, like this. 2 50-gallon drums. Appropriate technology. So we have the Brogdon avocados and the macadamia nuts. These are all those nitrogen fixing plants I was telling you about, and the Tithonia for bring up phosphorus. These are cassias. These are really an exciting plant here. It's called popcorn cassia.
Uh-huh.
And you can smell that.
You would be in heaven here, huh, Kai? Because you love to go bare feet.
What?
The fact that you don't like to wear shoes.
Can I take off my shoes?
No, you can't. Because then we'd lose your new shoes. Isn't this romantic?
Yeah, this is our memorial boardwalk.
Next time we go back to the car, I'm leaving my shoes there. So I can walk barefoot.
I like the
Yep.
moss that has filled the
The
names.
names.
Oh, more moss right here.
Oh, there's the river. Wow, it's quite long.
Where's the river?
Right up ahead.
Yeah, that one goes all the way to the ocean. This is a very amazing ecosystem because it's spring fed on this end, which is all fresh water, and then salt water, which goes out to the ocean on this side. So right here, we'll get dolphins and turtles and sharks and tarpons, and we'll actually get like this mix of animals. So it's just such a unique ecosystem right here in this brackish water. Very beautiful kayak experience right here.
Can I get my shoes in the